This video is rated B for you'd better back on out of here if you don't want spoilers, buddy. Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO with plenty of unresolved plot threads and literary secrets that have gone unanswered for years. One of the biggest threads players have wondered about since the Shadowbringers expansion has to do with the remaining reflections. While the game primarily focuses on the source, the original world, Shadowbringers reveals that the surviving shards are very much alive and doing their own things. Naturally, this led many players to wonder what kind of world every shard was. But more importantly, where were the remaining shards of their own character, the Warrior of Light? And with the story of Post Endwalker all wrapped up now, we'll be discussing the shard most hotly debated. I am the Synodic Scribe, your traveler in all things lore. Gather round, my friends, for today we'll be discussing the theories surrounding the Warrior of Light's 13th shard, and who they could have been. A quick recap for those who may not remember or don't know much about the world of Final Fantasy XIV. The primary world you see in this MMO is known as the Source, called such because it is the original world from which pieces and/or copies of it were shaved off by the goddess known as Hydaelyn. Her power was that of division. She had the unique ability to strike at the core of something, dividing it in its entirety. These divided things would be identical in appearance, yet all aspects such as strength, intelligence, and the soul itself would be split. The event in which she used this power to strike at the entire world was known as the Sundering, wherein Hydaelyn not only used this power on the planet, but every life upon it. This created the Source, the original world, and its 13 reflections. Every planet and person upon it were now only 1/14 their original power, and as such, things like social advancement and scientific developments were reduced in its entirety. Every world would have to start its history all over again. But a group of 3 ancients that had avoided the Sundering wouldn't let this stand. Known as the Ascians, they wanted to rejoin the 13 copies to the Source itself, to return the world to its perfect form, as they put it. Until they were stopped by the player character, the Ascians succeeded in rejoining 7 shards to the Source. The 5th, 12th, 2nd, 3rd, 6th, 10th, and 7th shards are now part of the Source once again. But none of these were their first attempt. Indeed, their first attempt at a rejoining was a failure. The first was actually the 13th shard, otherwise known as the Void. The Void was a colossal mistake, one that the Ascians had allowed to fester for thousands of years. At the time, they did not understand that reducing a shard to raw energy wasn't enough. The Source needed to be prepared to receive that power, and it wasn't. As such, the unstable ether of the 13th surged, and with nowhere left to go, darkness had corrupted and consumed it, turning the entire world into the husk that we call the Void, and every soul upon it was turned into the demons we called the Voidsent. Your character, the Warrior of Light, was no exception during the Sundering. They too were split into 14 distinct entities, the only common denominator being their appearance and personality. But as time passed and the different shards became their own worlds, the fate of each of your shards would become different. Truth be told, it's not guaranteed that every shard of the Warrior of Light is alive right now. Some of them may be dead, their essence adrift in that reflection's ethereal realm, waiting to be reborn. But that's the point. We know what happened to the 13th shard. We know about the Void and how all the souls were corrupted into Voidsent. So for years, fans of Final Fantasy XIV have asked themselves, which Voidsent was ours? Which of these thirsting demons was in fact a vagrant piece of your soul?
Yeah.
So many people have been theory crafting who the 13th shard of the Zem is for years.
Oh my god, it's gone. Oh my god. I've heard Zero, I've heard Golbez. I think I heard like Rubicante at one point. I know.
Yeah, there were some people saying that Diablos is the Warrior of Light.
Yes!
shard.
Oh, I've heard that. Oh my god. There are some ones where I'm like, honey, please. Like, there's like, I know there's scant evidence, but there's at least enough to know it's not that.
Darling, sweetie, summer child, please.
You know? Well, and then here's the funny part where we get to 7.0 and all of a sudden Diablos. Ah, yes, I was the Warrior of Light all along.
It's true. People have been theory crafting this for years. There has never been any shortage of speculation when it comes to the fate of our wayward fragments, and thanks to the events in Post-Endwalker, we've gained a lot more data about the Voidsent. What emerged from that data was a brand new theory, one that many players have been subscribing to. That theory is that the Warrior of Light's 13th shard is none other than the original Golbez. But why is this theory becoming so popular, and what does it mean for the Warrior of Light? We'll start with the first question. This theory gained a lot of traction because of a few unique things involving Golbez before his fall to darkness. Before Durante took his appearance and name, the original Golbez was described as a man with unflinching resolve and faith in the hearts of those around them. This philanthropic line of thinking is similar to that of our character, the Warrior of Light, and our shard from the first, Ardbert. However, similar ways of thinking is not enough. Just because someone is considered charismatic and a good person does not automatically mean they're of the same soul. But this theory doesn't end at their personalities. We learn that Golbez suffered an unfortunate fate. While battling during the Contra Memoria, a dying fool used the last of his strength to release corrupted ether that would strike and begin infecting Golbez, being only a matter of time until he was driven by madness and a thirst for ether. His friend, Durante, was forced to use his power to seal away Golbez into a Memoria crystal in a vain attempt at saving his friend. We learned this during a new dungeon called the Lunar Subterrane, because most of the dungeon is actually a vivid memory, a memory from the crystal containing Golbez, and it's your Warrior of Light that takes his place in the retelling. The unique interactions with his Memoria crystal, our place in the dungeon's retelling of the past, the interesting fact that Golbez remained unvoiced in all the cutscenes he's in, and the fact that Golbez was said to have a similar personality to our Warrior of Lights, all point to him being the 13th piece of their sundered soul. Honestly, you can't blame people for believing this new theory, especially when the MSQ goes so far out of its way to draw connections between the Warrior of Light and the original Golbez. Even if it turns out that they aren't the same soul, I'm confident that the Warrior of Light and Golbez would have gotten along very well, no doubt. But knowing the reasons behind the theory isn't enough. We've yet to discuss what this would mean for us, or rather, the Warrior of Light. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that Golbez is in fact our wayward shard. So long as his soul is contained within the Memoria crystal, we shall never be rejoined. Simple as that. Can the crystal be broken and the soul freed? Yes, of course. The Memoria crystals aren't unbreakable seals. Even Heidelin, who had infinitely more power than a Memoriate, could never forge an unbreakable enchantment. In fact, we watched Durante shatter a Memoria in order to draw upon the ether within it. The real issue is that his corruption was indeed absolute. You wouldn't be freeing Golbez, you'd be freeing his corrupted form, which could be a problem all on its own. Not only that, there's no telling what accepting a corrupted soul into oneself would do to them. The only other example we have of a reflection willfully rejoining the Warrior of Light is Ardbert. He was a meandering soul, uncorrupted by the light of the first. Upon accepting what he was and understanding that the Warrior of Light could save both the first and the source, he willfully rejoined his true self. The Warrior of Light is the only person on the source we know of who naturally reclaimed a piece of themselves from a reflection. But Ardbert wasn't the only interaction we had. We must consider the corrupted light from Shadowbringers as well. Some might suggest that since we overcame the corruption of the Light Wardens, the corruption of a Voidsent should be nothing. But that's not entirely accurate. When the Warrior of Light took in the ether of the Light Wardens, they never made that energy a part of themselves. Notice that the Warrior of Light never became more powerful despite taking in all of that corrupted ether. Simply put, their body was acting as a vessel from which the ether might be steadily purified and released safely. In truth, it was never a part of them. And when it tried to become a part of them, well, you saw the result. It was only thanks to Ardbert's soul rejoining the Warrior of Light that we were able to finally release all of that corrupted energy as purified power during their final fight against Emmet Selk. So, would taking in a Voidsent and making it a part of themselves corrupt the Warrior of Light from within? Honestly, I don't know. The usual evidence would suggest that, yes, the twisted ether would spread like a cancer, corrupting the rest of their body. But that's only the usual evidence, and the Warrior of Light is anything but normal when compared to the rest of the characters in Final Fantasy XIV. One could just as easily say that all the power our Warrior of Light has gained at this point would be enough to resist such corruption. In reality, it could swing either way, as the true power of the Warrior of Light is something that's difficult to quantify. The benefits of being the player character means that, in the end, there's no obstacle they can't overcome in time. But in the end, that's all speculation. But even theories can have their own charm, can't they? This video was a request from a fan over Discord, so I hope this was everything they expected. It's likely easy to see why there are so many theories surrounding stuff like the Warrior of Light shards. And that's just one of the many theories fans love to speculate over. But what about you, my friend? Do you think that the original Golbez is indeed the Warrior of Light's reflection from the 13th? Or do you think we've yet to discover that Voidsent? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And also make sure to let me know if there's any other community theories that you would like to have me address in the future. But as always, until we meet again, stay safe, my friends. Thank you all for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe and share this with your fellow adventurers? With your help, I'll try to reach out even further and bring even greater stories to you. Although, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my biggest contributors. A grand thank you to Amina Viltaria, Slippers, Potato, Sage Mouse, Sinalv Bagel, Cizani, and Travan Shea, with an additional nod to the scholarships on screen. Links to things like my Twitter and that of my channel artist Caddy can be found in the description. Thank you all for your viewership as well as your support, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Class dismissed.